What's up? It's early, I'm tired and over-caffeinated, but today I wanted to watch a video on Old Norse. And if you don't know, I am Swedish, and Old Norse is basically the mother of all Scandinavian languages. So this is a video by ecolinguists, and I'll leave the link in the description. And it just so happens that they have a Norwegian, a Danish and an Icelandic person trying to understand Old Norse. So basically, we're just missing a Swede. I should say though, I've actually never heard any Old Norse, so I'm quite intrigued. All I know is that it's a sister language to Old English, and I'm pretty sure it's gonna be a bit closer to Icelandic compared to the other Scandinavian languages. But let's get on with it.
Velkomin all saman til Netarasar heimálfræðings Norberts Fjersbyggja.
Okay, so this was quite close to Swedish. The first part is like Välkommen allesammans. Is that what we say? I think that's what we say. And basically welcome everyone to
Til Netarasar heimálfræðings Norberts Fjersbyggja. Ek heitum Jackson Crawford. Og netros minni tala ek norrönt mál og innsigildu norrönu goðakvæði með óðni, Þór, Loka og öðrum ósum. Í dag mun ek mæla norrönu málið í Norðurlöndum í vikingaöld og ver munum finna hversu mikill núverandi menn frá Íslandi, Danaveldi og Noregi fá þetta eldri málið skilið. All mál bregðast jafnvel íslenska en rást ómu endurómar í rástum barna og. Nú hörum hverjir þessir.
Gotta say, I actually understand more than I thought I would.
Aðrir gestir eru og hvaðan þeir koma frá.
Hej, jeg hedder Michael, og jeg bliver ofte kaldt for Mik. Jeg underviser i dansk online, og jeg har også en kanal på YouTube, som hedder Mix Languages, hvor jeg har forskellige videoer med det danske sprog, udtale, grammatik og andre ting.
Komið sæl, Óskar Bragi heiti ég og kenni íslensku á netinu. Ég með YouTube rás og þekktur sem speakviking á netinu og ég mjög spenntur að vera hér í dag.
Okay, so I do give Danish a lot of shit for being unintelligible, but I do understand like the majority of Danish. Icelandic, on the other hand, is much harder. And I gotta say that Old Norse is definitely closer to Icelandic. Last but not least, we have Norwegian, which is definitely the easiest one for me to understand, as a Swedish person.
Først tar jeg på Tromsø-dialekt. Hei, jeg heter Torleif, og jeg en norsklærer online. Og jeg også har en YouTube-kanal som Norwegian Square, som jeg da underviser i. Og det da dette jeg gjør til daglig, og ganske morsomt. Dette min dialekt, som jeg kan bruke. Men jeg kan snakke på bokmål, som litt enklere å forstå for folk. Så dette kan jeg også snakke.
Depends on who you're talking to, because I'm a Nynorsk guy.
Nynorsk is not the same as Tromsø dialect. So.
Oh, I know, but I like dialects, so it's not so crazy. So, for more than a decade at various universities in the U.S., I've been teaching Old Norse, the medieval language of Scandinavia, in addition to modern Scandinavian languages. And the old language of Scandinavia, of course, has changed over time in different ways in different parts of Scandinavia. In some respects, less in Iceland than in other countries. What I'm going to do here is read some Old Norse sentences in their reconstructed pronunciation from about the 1200s AD, and we're going to see how much of that is understandable to a modern speaker of Icelandic, Norwegian, or Danish. I'll be reading 5 sentences in Old Norse, again with reconstructed 1200s pronunciation. And first, I will simply read the sentence out loud, and each of the modern Scandinavian language speakers will have a chance to tell us what they hear in it. And then I will also show it to them written so that they may get some extra cues from the written language as well. Okay.
So this is actually a little bit interesting because like the scripture you see here, I do remember like when I was in school we actually got to like try and write this like, but I think we basically wrote in Swedish with these letters.
Well, okay. Snjår fell en dag I skogen.
Oh.
Are we all good?
Yeah. Snow falls today in the forest. Must be. Because it sounded like he said, well, the Swedish equivalent would be something like Snö faller idag I skogen. That's what it sounded like.
This just sounded super easy, and since I didn't
Supposed to-
understand anything, that's supposed to be okay good because I didn't understand much of your introduction. So
So it's supposed to start super easy. All right, now let's see that written down. Snjår fell en dag
Oh,
I
one day.
skogen.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody good? Okay, the dice say Torleif first.
First I thought it was Norbert. Norbert fell I skogen, but it's not him. Okay, yeah, that is Snorbert fell I skogen. So I think
Snow
that is
falls one day in the forest.
one person went one day in the woods.
Huh?
So where do you get one person?
I don't know what Snorbert is, to be honest. Never heard of it.
Oh, I see.
I have no clue. Rings no bells.
There are some dialects in Norway and in older Nynorsk.
Wait, can they not
this
see the
word
text
actually
yet?
occurs more or less in that form. Sometimes in Western Norway, this
They
dialect
can,
say
right?
snu for sni.
Yeah, snow.
The dice say mik next. So what did you hear?
I heard sne faldt en dag I skoven, which translates into snow fell one day in the forest. We wouldn't have the same grammatical structure
same
in
here.
modern Danish. We would have a different syntax. Or we could probably say sne and the snow fell one day. That would probably help it. And that's what I heard in the first listening and also in the writing. It just confirmed what I had heard.
Yep. All right, and then Oscar?
Yeah, basically the same thing that Mick just said. Snow fell one day in the forest is exactly what I heard, and it's written a bit more poetic than you might hear it in the spoken everyday Icelandic. But yeah.
Yeah, and basically the written form is almost the same, minus that the past tense of fell now has a long vowel, and then you have some pronunciation differences, like the two L's becoming like.
Snjór féll einn dag í skóginum.
Yeah, so it's really a pronunciation difference more than a written difference. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's hear the second sentence. Margir fuglar bjuggu í þessum skógi.
You say?
Can we hear it again, please?
Margir fuglar bjuggu í þessum skógi.
Wait, I didn't get shit. What the f did you say, bro? Okay, I need to hear this again.
Yeah.
Okay, let's hear the second sentence. Margir fuglar bjuggu í þessum skógi.
Sounds like
Can
it's...
we hear it again, please?
Margir fuglar bjuggu í þessum skógi.
I want to hear like birds and forest again. Just
Yeah, I said
fåglar
it's just like, yeah.
sounded like. But I'm actually quite lost here.
I can imagine, but I don't. I'm lost totally.
Okay, do you want to see it written now?
Yeah.
Margir fuglar bjuggu í þessum skógi.
Oh wait. Yeah, it is birds. It's something.
You ready to tell me what you heard?
Oh, it's
Did I say your
probably
first name?
birds sing something.
Okay.
Birds sing
Right,
in
so
these forests.
This is not.
I'm pretty sure fuglar is fåglar, so birds, and I some skog, like in these forests. That's what I'm not sure about the first and third word, but I would just logically I would guess that it's like something birds sing in these forests.
That's
my
number
guess.
one. I'm pretty lost now. I didn't understand anything in the saying in the spoken version. And the written one, well, I would say fugler is fugle in Danish, which is birds. Byggu must be to build, bygger, but maybe I'm totally wrong here.
It's from the same root, but in modern Danish, this would be båda.
What's good?
Oh, lives.
Båda? Yeah.
They live.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay. So.
Oh, it's many birds.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
So the birds live.
Yeah, many birds live in these forests. That must be it. Many birds live in these forests. Like många fåglar. Många fåglar bor i dessa skogar. That must be it.
Skog is the skov again, which is the forest, I guess. Thessum, I have no idea about that word.
Okay, Torle.
So what I thought it was Marger hyglar jorgar I Sessenskog. It was not correct. It was said Marger fuglar bjuggu I Bessenskog. And as Mick said, fuglar means fugl, which is bird. So Marger, I'm curious, maybe it means many birds. And bjuggu, I'm thinking maybe that is they're yelling, they're chirping or something.
That's what I thought
in
first.
The Bessum. I'm just thinking maybe that is nice forest.
I think it's dessa. These.
Probably wrong. So I said many birds yell in the nice forest, I think.
So keep in mind in Old Norse or in Icelandic, that letter that looks like the B and P together, thorn, is the th sound like an English think. So Thessum. And then Oscar.
Margir fuglar bjuggu í þessum skógi. And I understood it as you said it, Jackson. Many birds lived in this forest.
Oh, lived.
Yeah.
Okay.
So again, actually, I'm pretty sure the written form is identical in modern Icelandic. So what we have here that's different in Norwegian and Danish is the root word for many in Old Norse is mark, which remains in Icelandic, but then on the consonant is replaced by the root from Low German, mang, right? So this is modern mange fuglar.
Många fåglar.
And then the verb for to dwell in, to live, bua, in the languages on the continent has a reformed past tense. So bjuggu is the past plural third person in Old Norse and modern Icelandic, but then in forgive my terrible accent in Danish, but in Danish it's boda, and then in modern Norwegian Buda, depending on dialect. And then also the word for this
Swedish
has many different inflectional forms in Old Norse or Icelandic. So thessum is the dative masculine singular in this instance, whereas in modern Norwegian and Danish, in the singular, this just has one form, which is from the old masculine accusative singular, dena. So there's all familiar roots, more or less, but with some very different forms from those roots in modern Norwegian and Danish.
And thessum, I guess, thessum is probably related to this in English, I guess.
Yeah, well, and of course the plural dissa.
Dissa in Danish, yes, of course.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Like,
but that root thes can appear in the singular in Old Norse, unlike in modern Norwegian and Danish.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now for number
this
3,
is interesting.
which is a longer sentence. I því hæsta tré í skógum byggðu tver meisingar hreiðar sitt.
Wait, I think it was building something in the forest.
Please.
I því hæsta tré í skógum byggðu tver meisingar hreiðar sitt.
I want to hear like this tree something builds in the forest.
Please.
I don't know.
All right. I því hæsta tré í skógum byggðu tver meisingar hreiðar sitt.
Maybe.
Well, the dice say that you're first, Meg.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Let me roll my dice. Well, the dice say that you're first, Meg.
Okay, so again, the first time I was lost.
Wait.
But I heard the word skog.
Yeah, I heard the forest. But I need to hear this again.
You want to see it written?
Please.
All right. I því hæsta tré í skógum byggðu tver meisingar hreiðar sitt. Let me roll my dice.
Oh, you know. So, I don't know if this is tree or three. This is definitely in the forest. This must be building the something. Like, what? Three, three. This one was difficult. This could be like horses, but I don't think so. Because it doesn't make sense in the sentence, I feel like. This one was difficult.
Did I say that you're first, Mick?
I know it's in the forest and
Okay,
probably
so
building.
again, the first time I was
something.
lost, but I heard the word skogum, I cannot pronounce it correctly, which is skogen. We had it the same form, the same grammatical form in the first example, I think. Skogenum. Bygde, they build, right? So in the something in the forest, somebody built. Hereder sit. Right, I'm aware that in Danish, the possessive pronoun would be in the beginning.
Yeah, sit.
Rede, which is the nest of the bird. So it's, and okay, right, sorry. I was talking about what I heard. When I only heard the skogenum and the hestetræ. I had no idea. Hest is horse, but it makes no sense. So horse doesn't make any sense. But then I saw it written, and then I figured, okay, reder. First, I had actually heard träder. And then I thought about Swedish. I think they call trädgård, which is the garden in Swedish. So I thought about they built their garden. But now I say hreder, which must be the nest, right?
Yeah.
Tver must be two or three. And two. And this messinga is a bird. I think there's some bird in Danish that has a similar name, but I've forgotten the word of it. And hesta, I have no idea. Three is must be two again, right? It makes sense to have two trees in the forest where this bird built their nest. No,
two is the TV root. Thornv is different, but you're absolutely right about nest. So that actually shows a very regular change from Old Norse into Danish, where HR just becomes R, so like ring becomes ring, and then EI becomes just E, right? Like stain the sten. Yeah, so that's a very regular. So yeah, exactly. Okay, Oscar?
Í því hæsta tré í skóginum byggðu tveir messingar hreiður sitt.
Yeah. So a couple things I was wondering about, wanted to confer with you about with modern Icelandic. I think in modern Icelandic I probably would have said hæsta trénu. Or would you say it this way?
Would you say it í því hæsta trénu?
No, not því, í hæsta trénu. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what the reason I didn't do it that way in Old Norse is that the article I find is less often used, and they often
this one was difficult.
Revert to the that forms when it's followed by some qualifying statement or like a relative clause. So it just seemed more natural to me a little bit in Old Norse. Another thing that I thought would be kind of different is you'd probably have the article before sits. You'd like hreidrid sit. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think those are very good observations. If you were to say the sense in modern day Icelandic, you would say something like í hæsta trénu í skóginum byggðu tveir messingar hreiðrið sitt.
And then for the bird word, I think in modern Icelandic this is titur. Or does anyone say mesingar anymore?
I'm not good enough with birds to know that,
okay.
But
we do have like
think
blåmes.
something like this to me sounds a little bit familiar, like something that I might have come across once or twice. But what did you just say now, Jackson?
I think so the modern Icelandic word I know for this bird is tita, not mesingar. But I'm not sure they exist in Iceland. I think it's a continental bird, so I don't know.
I mean, that kind of makes sense to me because when I hear that name, both those names, those are not birds that kind of pop up in my, wheelhouse of birds in Icelandic. But then again, I'm not a big bird enthusiast. But
I have the bird now. Now I have it. Now it came to me the word in Danish for this bird.
Yeah, same root.
say
It
it?
should be the same root in Danish.
Yeah, it's very similar. It's kind of similar, but it's a bit longer. Meise.
Yeah, it's the same word. Okay, Torlap.
I thought it was I tri hefter trä I skogen dykte trär messer går trebersiv sitt, but when I saw there it's a bit different. I think Mick had a very good observation on the bigur, which obviously is to build. But I thought it was I have to cut the tree in the forest, but losing the hair because messing it is close to missing. Mister. I thought it was Mister. Maybe he lost his hair, which was kind of weird.
Okay.
We still haven't figured out what the word hesta means. I still don't know it.
Yeah, just it still sounds like horse.
Word in Danish.
It's highest.
Highest.
Høyest. Yeah.
Højeste.
Högsta.
So in Old Norse and then still in modern Icelandic, the word for high is hor, modern Icelandic haur. And so this is the superlative, the highest. But then this is another case where the continental languages have borrowed a Low German word, hug or hui. So that's another case of vocabulary replacement. But then,
but still similar, right? It's still related totally.
It's from the ultimately
root,
from the same root. And then the bird word, that should be in what would that Danish meise?
En meise, to meiser.
Yeah.
MEJSE.
Yeah, and then I think it's the same roughly in Norwegian, maybe without the at the end.
Yeah, it might be. I'm not.
Yeah, I think it's mes in Swedish.
Like Oscar, I don't know.
Well, we are also having ornithological speculations. Okay. In the highest tree in the forest, 2 titmice built their nest.
Oh, it was tree then, yeah.
I had to think about the English word for the bird.
Okay, yeah, that was... what did I get? Tree, forest, build. Like, that's about it. This one was definitely more difficult.
Chickadee, wait, no, that's the North American bird. Titmice. And then I thought, does that sound wrong?
Titmice. So it is called titmouse?
Yeah, that's it. It's a European, I don't know, man. It's a European word. Bird.
Interesting bird, yeah.
All right, here's the 4th sentence. En ådren stormen kom, stal krocka their egg.
Okay, it sounded like something like a storm comes and... I heard something, storm comes and like... fucking crashed 4 eggs. What?
En ådren stormen kom, stal krocka their egg.
I heard krocka 4 egg, that makes no sense. Like, I just a literal translation would be like crashed 4 eggs, but so it kind of sounded like something another storm came, crashed 4 eggs, but I'm not sure about that one.
Again, please.
En ådren stormen kom, stal krocka their egg.
The first part I am lost, but I have the last part I have a bit of a sense out of it at least. But the first part is kind of... Could you say it again, please?
En ådren stormen kom, stal krocka their egg.
I would have to see it written.
Okay,
No.
let us see it written. En ådren stormen kom, stal krocka their egg.
Their egg.
Oh wait, is it 1 year a storm came? What? Fucking hell. Okay, when I read this, I want it to be like 1 year a storm came. And I don't know if a fucking crow stole 4 eggs. But it sounds off, but that's what yeah. Yeah, that's the closest thing I can kind of compare it to.
I think egg comes from the Vikings, is it from Norway? I think
So yeah, it's an Old Norse word that is borrowed into English.
Mm.
Are we ready to go?
it's just a small sack to translate.
We're still in the bird, I would say. We're still
Yeah. That's what I
universe, but
think
still,
too. It must be just look. This sounds like en norrön stormring kom stallkrocka 4 ägg. It sounds kind of like ett år en storm kom stalkråka 4 ägg. So that's not grammatically correct in Swedish, but it would translate to something like 1 year storm came and crow stole 4 eggs. That's yeah.
A lot of birds.
I don't know.
yeah.
I have a clue about the kråka.
Yeah.
I think I know what that is.
Feeling ready?
Same in Norwegian.
All right. Oscar?
En áður en stormurinn kom, stal kráka þeirra egg.
That's the same language. Come on, it's
Yeah.
the same language.
So
Can I
yeah,
just, Jackson, can I paraphrase into how I would say it in modern
sure,
day
of
Iceland?
course, yeah.
Thanks. So, en áður en stormurinn kom, stal kráka eggi þeirra.
Mhm.
Yeah, I would also have reversed that. But I did it both ways in these sentences. So in sentence 3, I had the noun before the possessive, and then in this one, I flipped them. Because in Old Norse, there isn't the same consistency, right? Modern Icelandic and then modern Norwegian dialects have really favored noun plus possessor. Modern Danish and Swedish really favor possessor plus noun, but then in Old Norse,
Yeah.
it just seems to be kind of random. So I just decided to kind of mix. But yeah, I mean, once again, the written form with a couple changes, a U that will be added between the M and the R there, yeah, exactly, is very similar. Pronunciation, very similar, minus some vowels especially, and then a couple places where double consonants.
It's
Mick?
cheating.
Well, this is I don't know. This is part of what we're looking at. It's not a game. Nobody wins
Yeah.
anything except hearing my terrible accent in Icelandic, Danish, and Norwegian.
It's a good accent. It's a good accent, Jackson.
Thank you.
But it sounds very similar to Icelandic, I would say.
Yeah, it
I wouldn't be able
definitely
to keep
does.
them apart, these two languages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's sometimes
well,
hard
okay.
for me because I do.
Yeah, like if I just randomly heard Old Norse like out in the streets or wherever, I would definitely think it was Icelandic.
have to keep them apart for some purposes. Mick?
So now we just saw how similar these two languages are, Icelandic and Old Norse. I am lost here. The last part is their eggs, there's egg, I would say. I would
think
say
it's
the word
4
after
eggs.
the comma stal is stjal, it stole.
Yeah.
That's how I see it. Somebody stole, some bird stole their eggs. Kråka could be crow, a crow, the bird crow. Is that correct?
Yep.
Yeah. And as I said from the beginning, the first part, right, it would have to be something like a rainy, stormy day or something, maybe. But I have no idea. I cannot make anything out of these words.
You're correct in seeing storm in it.
Okay.
And then Torla?
So I said, in Olden Torden komt stålkrocka deras ägg Ordenstormen. Yeah, but I see now, I think that 1 year a storm came and a crow stole their eggs. I don't know, the data.
I think that's correct, but I think it's 4 eggs.
The crow. Oh,
Yeah.
I
Like
think that's
fyra.
year.
You two are closer than you think you are. Yeah. So the last half was pretty understandable, right? A crow stole their egg or their eggs.
Oh no, it isn't. Oh.
So Theira, of course, in some Norwegian dialects and in Nynorsk, Deira is from that, right? Deres and
Deras.
bokmål.
Ah.
So, but one thing that's happened is we have two words, two meanings in a word that's spelled the same way in Old Norse and Icelandic, which is N. So the first N would be in Danish or Swedish men, right?
Oh.
But, right? And then the second N is than, right? Which in Norwegian is ENN, right? And then in Danish, I think it's END, right? For than. So before
for
than,
the comparative
Yeah,
comparative
yeah.
form, like more
So
than.
yeah, so it's but earlier than, so before the storm came,
Oh.
a crow stole their egg or their eggs. Yeah.
Could you pronounce it once again, please?
Yes, I kind of messed this one up.
En åldren stormen kom, stal krocka their egg. And one thing that I'm doing, by the way, that's different from modern Icelandic is I'm not pronouncing a vowel between the M and R and the eth and R, especially if there's a vowel behind it. I'm kind of letting those syllables. I'm not making it a distinct syllable, which in earlier Old Norse we would expect it not to be. Sometimes hard to do, but it's easier for me to do if there's a vowel after it.
So the translation is, but before the storm came, the crows stole their eggs.
Yeah, a crow.
How is that second word? That second word is interesting. How is that before?
So it's of course lost in the modern Scandinavian languages on the continent, as far as I know.
We have the word innen.
Yeah, but
I don't know if that's related.
But older, it's related to English ear. If you've ever seen that in poetry, ERE. It's distantly related to the English word early. But yeah, it's lost. Of course, you know, för en would be the continental form now.
Yeah, före. That's what we would say.
Áður en, those are kind of like, they're kind of locked in. Áður en, like together they make sense as, you know, but before. And just before. Áður en, before. And it's one of those things that it's very hard to try to make sense of it if you're trying to explain it through English. But I think what you said, Jackson, just now made sense.
Yeah, I'm just translating it as but before. Okay, so sentence 5. Vinur með vangi hefur þann óvin flygur.
Something flies at the end.
Again, please.
Vinur með vangi hefur þann óvin flygur.
Written form, please.
I want to hear friends at the
Alright.
beginning, like vänner, but I'm not
see it.
sure about that one.
Oscar's just sitting
Definitely
there.
something.
What
Yeah,
What's the
okay.
problem?
Oh, vinner med... Okay, something with wings. Like over is above is flying. Something with wings. Like above is flying, I think. Must be. 'Cause this is definitely with wings. And I think this is like over is flying or like above is flying. So basically something with wings is flying above.
Okay,
Not fair.
Vinur með vangi hefur þann óvin flygur.
So vinner, that's what I thought sounded like vänner, which is friends, but after seeing it written, I no longer think that's the case. It's something with wings. Wait, let me hear it again.
Vinur með vangi hefur þann óvin flygur.
I'm not sure about the middle part or the first word, but yeah, my guess is with wings. Over is flying, or like, yeah, Something with wings is flying above.
So as you might be able to tell, I was looking at birds when Norbert told me
Yeah.
I needed to write 5 sentences. And I thought I would try to end it on kind of a proverbial observation.
Does it contain a bird? I don't see any bird here. If you're trying to say that.
Vinner could be a bird, so like.
I mean, it's still related to the bird story, but there's not a bird.
okay, no.
There's not a word for bird.
Okay.
With wings
Flyger,
is definitely
That's the only word I actually understand.
flying.
I mean, Norbert, if you'll let me point one thing out.
Yeah.
Little tip on word forms. Of course, you notice in some of these previous sentences, there's a lot of words in Old Norse that ended in R that isn't there in Norwegian or Danish. So stormer, storm, snjor, snö, snö. That's another one. Hreiðr versus Danish leather. So the same thing with like vinner.
Could you give some more hints, please?
Norbert, what do you think?
No, no more hints.
No. Okay, no more hints. Even that hint is a little bit oblique because the vowel wouldn't necessarily help you in modern Norwegian or Danish.
Again, it's the same. It's the same. Oh man, this is crazy, and it's just so far away from anything I know. And I also speak Swedish pretty well. I understand Norwegian and stuff, and I'm just lost, you know.
In Swedish, I think the words that I can kind of find here is med vingar, över är flyger. But it's not like grammatically correct, but that's the only thing I can kind of pick out from here. So yeah, I think it's gonna be something like with wings or flying above.
Except flyger.
All of the pieces are there in Danish.
Yeah. Med, second word, I guess. But
okay. So Oscar, you just put in yours.
Vinur með vangi hefur þann óvinn flýgur.
Of course, differences in spelling. We have the U-R instead of just the R after consonants. One thing I'll point out that is, I think, a contrast to modern Icelandic again, is another syntactic thing where if you have a relative clause, right, flyger in Old Norse, or in modern Icelandic, sem flyger. That's usually preceded by the noun with a form of that on it. So in modern Icelandic, I think I would just say oven sem flyger. Right.
Yeah.
So that's a syntactic difference. But other than that and the spellings, anything you want to comment on?
So the first time that I heard you say the sentence, Jackson, I didn't completely follow. I think I got a little bit lost because vinner. But then once you said it the second time, then it made perfect sense. Vinur með vangi hefur þann óvinn flýgur. And I think also this might be, the trickiest out of all these because it's very sort of, like you said, proverbial or poetic in its structure. A friend with wings has the enemy that flies.
Oh, so it was friend. Oh, it was friend. That's the enemy that flies. Oh, yeah, so friend, this is ven and ovän, which basically to English, like the literal translation would be like friend and unfriend. Basically, in this case, translated to enemy. Okay, so I was incorrect with the whole ovin thing, because I thought that would be like över, above, over. But like, because when I heard it, when he said it the first time, I did hear friends. I thought it was friends because vinner sounds like vänner, which is the plural of friends in Swedish. But then when I saw the written, I kind of dismissed that part. Okay, this was
enemy that flies. is the direct translation that I come up with.
Vänner med vingar
Yeah.
har en ovän som
So, and by the way,
flyger.
that's interesting that you said that when I was saying it, you didn't catch vinnur, because I would say vinnur in modern Icelandic. Here, I was actually sort of trying in these sentences to pronounce F's as regular labiodental fricatives, the, but I was trying to give a little bit more of a bilabial V, where it's spelled V, because at some point there was a difference in the Old Norse period. So maybe it was my more bilabial V sound, like vinnur.
I think what trips me up is the fact that vinur, V-I-N-U-R, and then vinnur, V-I-N-N-U-R.
Oh, sure, the verb, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, like,
the
yeah,
verb
win.
and the noun.
Vinur.
Those things, they're close. So, you know, if you don't like nail the pronunciation 100%, and I think your pronunciation is very good, but then I just got tripped up a little bit. But then once you said it the second time, it made sense. So a friend with wings has the enemy, or has an enemy in that whom flies, that which flies.
And by the way, this interesting observation about the verb, right, works, right? Although in Old Norse, I would have said those two ends longer, more like vinnar, right? I would have held the two ends, because apparently there was some difference since they're so consistent about spelling it with two ends. Okay, Torleif.
Right. I was completely lost there. I was wrong in every sense. I said medvendigheder som ågen flyger. So I thought the vinur med was linked and switched, because vinur med means medvind. Medvind means the wind with you. So if you walk, you could say jag har medvind, which means I have a wind with me.
Like it's not
so I switched that. It's a medvind. Then venge, I thought it was vara, the weather. Hefur, I don't know. I thought it was befinner sig. Befinner sig means to exist or to be. So I thought the wind with you in the weather exists, and then the oven, I guess, and fly.
So part of what's interesting is that all these elements, like I said, are there in Danish or Norwegian. So you have some vowels that have gone like one rung down, and some that have gone one rung up. So vinner is van.
Yeah, van.
My friend. And then oven is uven, right? So enemy.
Oven.
But it's interesting.
Oven.
Yeah, so it's interesting how like one vowel has gone one step down, one vowel has gone one step up, and that makes it just that much harder to understand.
If you said uven, I would know uven.
Yeah.
And if you said ven with an e, I would think. If you switch those two, I would probably have a better guess.
Yeah, so just those, just like I said, just one vowel going one little bit down, one vowel going a little bit up, and all of a sudden it's harder to understand, even though all the pieces are there in modern Norwegian or Danish.
It's tripping me off there.
Kind of fun.
Yeah, it's a bit fun.
All right, Mick.
Okay, so the first oral part, I was lost. I understood the word flyger, flies. The word med, the second word, but I was lost. All the rest there was nothing. And then you were discussing with Oscar, and I thought that maybe first I actually thought about the wind as well, as Torleif did, wind in the beginning, right? But it kind of makes no sense. I couldn't find the verb. And if you don't find a verb, you're pretty lost. Now I can see the verb is clear, hefur, right? Have, even related to English. Uven is also, I figured it out when you talk to Oscar about it. Uven, we have that in Danish today. We use it very rarely. You can be uvenner with somebody. You are like not talking to that person because you disagreed on something, right? Uvenner.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I would have probably not I'm not sure I would generally translate ovän into enemy. Because usually if you talk about an enemy in Swedish, you would say fiende. I mean, yeah, I feel like it's similar but quite not as strong. I feel more like when you would say ovän in Swedish, that's more like you're not friends. But I wouldn't go as far to saying you have to be like enemies, if that makes sense.
That's the only use we have today. Yeah, right. I'm lost, and it's crazy for me to see how Icelandic is almost the same, and Danish and Norwegian are so far away. But as Jackson has to say, we have the words venner, med, vinger, har, den, uven, som flyver. Is the than is that the article? Okay.
Well, it's not exactly the article. It's the word that, but that's always used before a relative clause.
It's like denne again, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. So en vän med vingar har denna ovän som flyger. Sounds
So,
like that.
although den is from the extended version that means this, so it's if I were to use the exact equivalence, I would say den uven. You wouldn't say it that way in Danish, but that's what. But den is
I
actually
guess we
from
would say
than.
ovännen, probably, like the definite version. En vän med vingar har ovännen som... No, I don't know. I don't know.
So
I just want to say, if you want to use den, an adjective in the middle of den, for example, den gode vän, the good friend. We don't use den without an adjective, so I guess that's...
But
We do in
Norse,
Danish. We do in Danish. In relative sentences, sorry, in relative sense we do it. Then uven som flyver. We can't do that in Danish without the adjective.
and that's exactly what Old Norse is doing. Is it's using it in that relative sense, right? So that's lost in Norwegian. It's not really that common in modern Icelandic, but it's a prominent part of Old Norse syntax. So that's interesting. You know, there's three different streams that this language has followed in going into these three different modern languages.
Yeah, very interesting.
It was,
Norbert,
definitely.
what do you say to this?
Yeah, I think it was great. So what do you guys think? Do you have any overall thoughts about this whole experience? Jackson?
Yeah, to be honest, main thing is that I realized that basically Icelandic is Old Norse, and it is more difficult to understand than Danish. But with that being said, I actually think I understood more than I expected myself to do. I thought it would be even harder to understand, but I did pick up quite a few words. But yeah, this was definitely interesting to see.
What's your impression? Like, how did the guys do?
Yeah, I think this went as expected. I mean, it's like with any two languages that are related. When you first look at it or first hear it, it may seem more unfamiliar than when you have a second or a third look at it and realize some of the correspondences between, say, unalike vowels at different stages of the language. Of course, with Icelandic, there's more structural similarity, and also outside of some vowel differences and some things with double consonants, a lot of pronunciation similarity. But there's still little things where, you know, Norwegian and Danish today have clear echoes of Old Norse, not just in the basic vocabulary, but in some little details of grammar. So for example, as Mick was pointing out, relative clauses in Danish work a little bit more like Old Norse than they do in Icelandic or Norwegian, right? Which you wouldn't necessarily expect, given that Icelandic is more structurally similar overall. But so each language kind of has a random assortment of inheritances, right? Just like any three kids of a parent, even though one kid looks a lot like the parent in a photograph.
That was a pretty good comparison. Okay, I think I'm gonna skip this part, but this video was very interesting to watch. Like I said, I feel like I did understand more than I thought I would. But also, yeah, I wouldn't say it's easy to understand, but certain parts, like, you can definitely still tell that it's related to my language. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.